Rob Hatcher. I'm one of the horticultural staff up here at Mount Lofty Botanic Garden. We're going to be talking a little bit about bonsai today. I do bonsai as a hobby. I started doing that when I was a trainee. Bonsai is the traditional Japanese art form of putting plants into a container. The actual word bonsai means plant in a pot. Traditionally, they would have got stuff out of the wild and dug it up and then containerized it. Today, we actually find things in large containers that have been there for a while, have been trained to be a potential bonsai. Here we have a good example of that, a Chinese juniper that has been there for a fair while. When I do take this out, what the roots have been doing underneath, and that's one of the things that you do need to realize when you start playing with bonsai, is there needs to be a bit of work at reducing that down. Bonsai has quite a few different forms, and this one that we're going to do today is one of the more common ones, and it's referred to as an informal upright. So informal upright has this style where the apex is directly over the base, but the trunk can actually meander away from that central line. And we have to reduce that root ball down so that eventually it will get into this size container. Ensure that there's a bit of protection at the bottom of the pot. So you can see that we've put some mesh in there, and this is basically to stop things like slaters and weevils and other things that might get into the bottom of the pot and come up and attack the soil and the roots of the plant in that pot. So I'll get the branch cutters and the scissors and start reducing this so you can actually see the line of the trunk a little bit better. It doesn't take very long before you start to see the structure appear. Today we're actually putting this plant into a very symmetrical pot, so it'll sit in the middle, but in asymmetry, the pot sits just to one side of the center. Some people refer to the end result as wanting to have the achievement of looking like small clouds or little clouds at the end of the branches. So usually you pick a part of the plant to be the front, and then you make sure that everybody can see the trunk from the front. And in terms of the cultural idea of that, it's almost like the plant is saying hello with its arms outstretched to greet you. So try to avoid too many things coming directly at you to detract from the actual line. Things like having branches on the inside of a curve are to be avoided. Okay, so now that we've got to that phase and we've done a lot of the pruning, we can actually look at the root ball and where we're going to have to try and get that into a size that will fit into this. So that's going to be the next phase of the operation. While this appears to be quite brutal, you have to remember that most of the feeder roots of this tree are at the edges, not at the bottom. Bonsai is a tradition that came out of Japan and originally from China. The Chinese introduced it to Japan, and then the Japanese have actually put their own spin on it, and it has become a real art form within horticulture. The Japanese did introduce that aspect of triangulation, which gives the plant the balance. The reason I started doing bonsai is because they tend to be a little bit more portable, and I didn't have a garden of my own that I could create a Japanese garden, but I had an interest in the Japanese aesthetic. So just teasing out the roots using, it's basically a scraping tool, but you know, you can modify a kitchen fork, and you know, basically that's a blade. You know, a sharpened kitchen knife can do the same job, but it's basically there to scratch away soil without doing too much damage to too many roots. And each time you do a root prune down the track, then you'll actually be able to get more of the original soil away, and new potting mix goes in each time. Yep, so I think she's ready to have the new potting soil. Generally speaking, the premium potting mixes are pretty well all you need. The bottom of the pot, make a little bit of a mound so that the roots actually spread out over the whole pot rather than get tangled up. And then you're looking at how the plant sits in the pot. You don't want it to be balanced away from the center line too much. Don't want it leaning one way or the other too much, especially in a symmetrical pot. And then it's a case of get some water, give it a good drink, put it in a nice spot for it to recover. There we have a bonsai created in an afternoon, and these are the sorts of things that you'll get exposed to if you come and do the class, either in exotics or in natives. So keep watching the Botanic Gardens website. There's a variety of classes, not only in bonsai, that you can come and do.